Thanks a bunch for enlightening me about these characters. Now, let's dive into more assist-type characters and their quirks. Because let's be real, problems are everywhere, whether it's these characters or just trying to find your keys in the morning. Last time, we tackled the issues with several assist-type characters: the little girl, the psychologist, and the priestess. If you missed it, go check out the previous video. Feel free to drop your own opinions there too, because honestly, if you play IDV as much as I do, you know those struggles are all too real. This time, let's dive into more assist-type characters and the chaos they bring: the Postman, the Barmaid, the Cheerleader, and the Seer. Buckle up, folks, and enjoy the ride. It's going to be a wild one. Playing as a postman in this game feels like facing the greatest dilemma of your life. Why? Because you can never decide when and for whom you should send your lovely bulldog. It's quite similar to our teenage life, where we have to pick between your best friend or your love interest, that every decision feels like a tragic end in an anime series. Let's take an example. When the match just starts, someone pings their decoding progress, so you think it's a good idea to send them a decoding buff letter, but then someone else is being chased and pings that the hunter is near them. Now you're stuck in a dilemma. Should you send the letter to the decoder, or to the one running for their life? After several moments of thinking, you decide it's better to send the dog to the person running for their life, hoping to help them escape. So, you send that kiting buff letter, feeling like a Power Ranger. But then, plot twist! The chased player pings that the hunter has changed targets, and now they're going to decode. By the time your dog arrives, that kiting buff is as useless as a chocolate teapot because the guy is now peacefully decoding. All your heroic efforts down the drain! Instead of being a Power Ranger, you'll feel like you're a Teletubbies now. Then you thought, okay, maybe that was just unlucky. The next match, you find yourself in a similar situation and make the same decision. This time, the player being chased gets terror-shocked before the letter even arrives. Well, my life sucks, you think, and you conclude that sending a letter to the kiter first is an absolute no-go. The feeling you get is like trying to be a superhero, only to arrive just in time for the funeral. You play again in the next match, and you've learned your lesson. Now, you send the decoding letter to the one decoding, completely ignoring the one being chased. Guess what? The hunter uses teleport, so the decoder is now kiting for their life. By the time the letter arrives, that decoding buff is absolute BS, because the decoder is now clinging to life, trying to escape Hoster. In the post-match chat, the decoder unleashes hell on you for sending the wrong letter. 3 times in a row, your decisions turn into complete BS, but you're somehow still determined to keep playing. So, in the next match, you send a kiting buff to the one decoding, assuming the hunter will teleport to them. And you know what? The hunter doesn't, because they're using Peeper instead of teleport. The post-match chat? Well, you can practically taste the spice. You then become super picky about sending letters. Next time, you decide to only send a rescue buff to the rescuer. That way, the letter will work as intended. Then, someone ends up in a rocket chair, and you see a rescuer in the team. You send them the rescue buff, feeling confident, but what does the rescuer do with it?
What are you doing?
Keeps on decoding. Frustrated, you try to rescue, but it's too late, and the poor soul in the chair is already on their way to heaven.
That's it, I'm out of here.
Having so much BS while trying to send the letter makes you think that maybe you should just keep the dog for yourself. And then reality hits in the next match. You get chased instantly, without a chance to send a kiting buff. But no worries. Wick, your trusty bulldog, can bite and slow down the hunter. So you deploy Wick to harass the hunter, only for him to hit an obstacle and come right back to you. You send him again, and this time, the hunter evades. By the time you get nailed, you can almost see Wick silently cheering for the hunter. Well, that's the dilemma of being a postman. Honestly, with all the guesswork and bad timing, sometimes it feels like the postman needs a buff letter. For his own sanity, that is. For those who started playing in 2021, consider yourselves lucky. You've got the Psychologist, a healer so powerful she practically defined the meta. But for those of us who played before her arrival, we know the struggle of trying to be a makeshift healer with a Barmaid. And honestly, comparing these two is like comparing a quantum computer to a calculator. Sadly, the Barmaid is the calculator. So, how is it that the Barmaid is a worse version of the Psychologist? Let's lay it out. First, we'll compare healing abilities. We have 3 main healers: the Doctor, the Barmaid, and the Psychologist. The Doctor needs time to heal her teammates, so let's set her aside. As the Barmaid, you can heal your teammates instantly with a super strong energy drink called Dovlin, which can heal everything, except the agony of getting bad randoms or terrible Wi-Fi. However, after downing that miraculous Dovlin, your healed teammates need a whopping 19 seconds before they're back to full health. During that time, they're as fragile as a soap bubble at a kid's birthday party. So anyone chugging that Dovlin better channel their inner marathon runner and dodge hits like their life depends on it for 19 agonizing seconds. It's like drinking a magic potion that comes with a warning label. Good luck, don't die! Let's take a gander at the Psychologist. With her ability, Empathize, she can patch up her teammates in a mere 7 seconds. Sure, if there are multiple Psychologists, the healing time increases to 12, 22, and 32 seconds. But seriously, who in their right mind would want a Psychologist party in a match? And you can't even bring more than 1 Psychologist into rank anyway! So yeah, the Psychologist can heal quicker than the Barmaid. And sure, she might take some damage after healing, but let's not forget that she's like the main battle tank of the group, taking 3 hits instead of 2. In addition, healing can be done by everyone as well. Secondly, the Barmaid's stash isn't exactly a bottomless bar. She's only got 2 bottles of Dovlin, which are utterly useless to her teammates if she decides to go on a solo bender. Plus, there's no delivery service in IDV, except for Wick the Postman's dog. So, if you want that sweet Dovlin healing, you have to find the Barmaid and stand next to her, which feels like a cash-on-delivery deal. Heck, I didn't even know you had to pay for that Dovlin in the first place. Meanwhile, the Psychologist, her flute can be blown anywhere, anytime, whenever you want. There's unlimited use of her healing abilities. She's like the neighborhood medic who never runs out of supplies, while the Barmaid is the bartender who's always running out of stock. Next, the Barmaid serves alcohol, which, as we all know, can't be served to underage players. That means some survivors in this game can't be healed by her. Yeah, I know, this game really cares about the kids, even though the little girl in this game is basically Lucifer in disguise, and thus often gets bullied. Nettie still cares about her, which is why she can't drink Dovlin, because it's alcoholic. Yeah, we know that she can wield a gun, but let's not talk about that, because for some people, perhaps being drunk is more dangerous than carrying a firearm. There are 4 survivors who can't be healed by the barmaid: the cheerleader, the mind's eye, the coordinator, and the little girl. And guess what? All those characters can be healed by the psychologist. Talk about a slap in the face for the barmaid. Well, hypothetically speaking, it's like she is running a bar with a no kids allowed policy, while the psychologist is running a universal clinic. Now, the barmaid can use a bottle of alcohol to get a small speed boost, but just 1 bottle. Does that mean the psychologist can't get a speed boost? Hell no. Enter Emile, the psychologist's love interest, who makes her sprint to him at lightning speed, whether it's to the escape or straight into doom. I can proudly say the psychologist outshines the barmaid in the escaping department, as long as Emile is around, of course. Given all these facts, what's the problem with the barmaid? Well, she seriously needs a rework. She's lagging behind the psychologist, and it's painfully obvious. Maybe making the Dublin unlimited, but with an additional mixing time, would level the playing field? Come on, Netties. Give our barmaid a fighting chance. She's been struggling to keep up. She deserves a little upgrade. But if I may add, there is one advantage the barmaid has over the psychologist. She's big, really big, so forget about the healing. She's got size on her side. Well, you know what I'm talking about. The cheerleader is the answer to the never-ending debate about emoting in this game. For those not in the loop, there's a heated argument about emoting while kiting. On one side, some folks think emoting while kiting is practically a crime against humanity, a grave insult, a serious matter. They argue that it's forbidden and downright toxic, and should be punished with a lifetime ban from this game. On the flip side, some argue that emoting while kiting is all in good fun. It's a strategy to lure the hunter into chasing you and to keep yourself relaxed during intense moments. They say if the hunter's mental health is threatened by a little dance, well, that's on them! After all, if a hunter can't handle a bit of emoting, maybe they need to switch careers to something less stressful, like being a fisherman or something. So, what does Netties do to settle the score? Introducing the cheerleader. With her skill, Encourage, she looks like she's emoting, but in reality, she's just doing her thing. It's a win-win solution. Anti-emoters can't complain, because it's a skill, and pro-emoters have a legit reason to bust a move. Clever move, Netties. Clever move indeed. With the solution, I wouldn't be so surprised if NetEase would turn the game into a dance-off battleground. Personally, I think the cheerleader is a kiter who took a wrong turn and accidentally ended up as a support character. It's like when you intend to order pizza but somehow end up with a salad instead. Well, let's be realistic. I bet most of you guys pick the cheerleader for her kiting prowess, right? Not her support skills. First, let's talk about Motivate. With this move, this hot yet underage chick can dash away from the hunter for a solid 4 seconds. And even though she slows down after, but in the hands of a pro, she's like teleportation in cute sneakers. And you know what? Her other move, Inspire, can reset the cooldown of Motivate, extending her dash even further. Pro players often combine these two with knee-jerk reflexes, turning her into the IDV version of the Flash. She's a menace, not gonna lie. Still, a lot of inexperienced cheerleaders just use Motivate to make a break for the nearest open space, or, if they're lucky, a pallet. But here's the thing. Seasoned hunters catch on to this trick pretty quickly. They just charge straight at her after the dash because, well, she's basically moving at a snail's pace for 4 seconds. And those hunters with double hit abilities like Hastur or Axe Boy, yeah, they can still give her a good smack even when she's hiding behind a pallet. Tough break for the cheerleader, huh? Ideally, you'd want to dash to safety in a prime kiting spot. But let's face it, not many cheerleaders can pull off that stunt smoothly. Now, on to her other skill, Inspire. It's a bit of a head-scratcher for some survivors, like our buddy the Postman. Poor guy, even if you inspire him, his trusty dog still needs its downtime. It's like, come on folks, even dogs need their beauty sleep, right? Cut the pup some slack. He's been running around delivering letters to everyone and their grandma, only to turn back halfway because, surprise, the recipient got knocked out before the mail arrived. Tough gig! And using the Inspire skill isn't always a walk in the park. Sometimes the cheerleader accidentally buffs the wrong person, which just adds to the confusion. And even when she does get it right, some survivors are left scratching their heads, totally clueless about the boost they just got. Take the perfumer, for instance. With the cheerleader's support, they could be an unstoppable duo, turning the perfumer into an immortal tank. But believe it or not, some perfumers still think their perfume skill is on cooldown, even after getting the Inspire boost. Now let's chat about her other skill, Encourage. I'm willing to bet the cheerleader's secretly praying her teammates keep those skill points stacked up to 28. That way, if they get knocked out, they can use those Encourage to spring back into action and make a getaway. However, some survivors have a knack for using those Encourage to dash away, whether it's to dodge the hunter or, well, to zip to their destination faster. And then there are the wanderers, those who just saunter off somewhere else, leaving those Encourage stacks gathering dust. All in all, the cheerleader's a decent kiter and supporter. But is she meta? That's still up for debate. She's a blast to use in quick matches, sure, but honestly, I wouldn't bet my ranked games on her. Well, you know, just like that friend who's fun at parties but maybe not the best choice for a life or death situation. Yep, that's the problem with the Seer. This kind of error doesn't usually happen. Or at least it's rare in high-tier play. But when it does, it's a real kick in the teeth, both for the desperate survivor and the Seer himself. Imagine needing life-saving protection and instead getting a bird delivered to the wrong address. It's like calling for an ambulance and getting a pizza delivery instead. In my time playing this game, I've come across only 2 types of Seers, the pros and the clueless. We all know about the pro Seer, so I don't need to go into detail, because that would be boring as hell, right? But if you want to know, well, he's practically a meta character. With that trusty owl, he can counter any hunter with ease. Whether it's summoning the owl at just the right moment for a clutch rescue, or turning everyone into tanky battle machines, he's got it covered. Need a safe rescue? Just rely on his owl to swoop in and save the day. And hey, even without Tide Turner, the rescuee can rest easy because the Seer's got that sweet block ability. It's like having a guardian angel with feathers. Now, if we throw the clueless Seer into those shoes, guess what? Those abilities become completely BS. The clueless Seer would probably just be decoding a cipher, or maybe just half a cipher. Once he realizes the hunter's chasing someone else, he swoops in, stealthily stalking the hunter from behind, just to gather that rage needed to summon his owl. He won't give a hoot about the one being chased at all. He's just there to farm owls, plain and simple. After he finally gets that owl he was so obsessed with, the clueless seer would just start doing random moves, completely lost on what to do next. Eventually, the hunter would switch targets to him, and this seer would run straight into the open, intentionally. That's right, intentionally. The reason? Instant owl protection. Seriously, for this seer, the only thing that matters is that instant owl protection and farming rage. It's all good if you can kite decently, but many of these seers, I swear, get downed right after they use that precious instant owl. Oh, and let's not forget that this type of seer is actually a master prankster. True to his name, he often sends owls to those who don't need them, as if he's playing a practical joke on the one who really needs his protection. A perfect example is the one I showed earlier, a dude struggling for his life, desperately needing an owl, while the seer sends the owl to himself for protection while decoding, leading to his teammate's elimination. Classic clueless seer move. And this type of seer would always have a defense, you know? Their usual excuse is, well, my teammate didn't call for help. Sure, that's kinda true, but come on, the seer should know who's decoding and who's getting chased. Sometimes the seer misinterprets a "help me" message as "I need your bird right now." So he sends the owl over, only to find out the person calling was just peacefully decoding a cipher machine. Classic mix-up, but yeah, it happens. And seriously, this mix-up is dangerous not only for his teammates, but also for the seer himself. Imagine this clueless seer running away from the hunter in an intense life-or-death situation, and then he sends an owl to protect himself, but the owl flies over to someone busy decoding instead. There's one job he has to do, and he can't even get it right. Yeah, that's the clueless seer for you. Those are the problems with our assist-type survivors. Part 2. Remember, this is all in good fun and not meant to offend anyone. If you have your own thoughts, feel free to share them in the comments section. Thanks for tuning in, folks!